What's up, guys? Let's talk about it with Travis.
Hey.
Yeah, we have a
Travis.
special guest with us. Travis Audi is here tonight with us to talk with us. And we have Clayton back with us as well. Thanks for being here. Thanks for being in here, guys, too. Bogey, always wonderful to see you as well. And tonight, Aiden, what are we talking about tonight?
We are talking about hobbies.
Ooh, hobbies. Oh, I forgot to
Yeah.
post a comment. Let me see if I can do that from here. Talking hobbies. All right, talk about hobbies, Aiden.
Well, today we have our special guest, Travis Audi, and so he is going to introduce what he does for his hobbies.
Yeah, so my hobbies, I like making stuff, so especially metalworking and woodworking type things. So I've just been doing that since maybe freshman year, I think. I made this cross necklace out of melted bullet shells back then when I made a homemade foundry out of like charcoal, stuff like that. Since then, I've moved on. I now make like knives. and
No
stuff.
kidding. Look at this.
So yeah. I got
So you
these.
made all of that from scratch?
Yeah, all this. I made the sheath from scratch, all the stuff on there. Then I even melted down this brass guard from like some stuff on a Corvette, and I made that for my dad.
No
Made
kidding.
all this. This used
All
to
the
be like a
metal.
bar of steel. Yeah,
Because that looks like something you buy in a store.
Thanks, but yeah, no, I made it.
Where do you get the metal from? To like melt, do you like melt it down?
Nah, so this is from Texas Knife Maker. The steel's from Texas Knife Maker Supply, so it
okay.
was like a bar of steel. Then I cut out the shape with a little saw, and then I used like a bench grinder. So it's just spinning sandpaper that goes real fast. So that way I can kind of grind it down. This is called the bevel right here. I grind that down so that way it goes down towards the edge. And then I cut down the end here so that way I can kind of fit a handle on there. And I just put it all together, sharpen it, and then I have a knife.
I'm still a little blown away right now. I don't know how it goes from a block of steel with a bench grinder down to that. Like,
that
how did you
sharp
carve
blade.
it? How do you even carve it to start with?
So I start off from the bar of steel with like a 3-inch cutoff saw. So it's just a real fast spinning ceramic disc. Then I just cut out the shape with that.
And then from there, it's just kind of whittling with a bench grinder.
Yeah, I mean, it takes hours to make, like, to work on that. Like, it's over the course of maybe a couple weeks now to make something like this.
No kidding.
Yeah. And
That's
then
insane.
this used to be just a big old block of wood that I had to hollow out the center of it some to fit, like, what's called the tang of the knife in there. So then I stick that in there. Then I fill it up with epoxy. But then I had to just kind of carve all this down with a saw and the bench grinder.
Wow.
That's fascinating. For those of you guys that are joining us, thanks for joining in with us. We got Noah, Adam Geiger showing in here. Brady, I saw you in here as well. Ashley is here too.
Yeah.
Hey, Ashley.
Hey.
Yeah, we're talking hobbies tonight, and Travis was just explaining to us some of his hobbies about creating things. Yeah. And it blows my mind. It's still kind of blowing my mind. Like,
It's
what?
like a long process.
So in total, how many weeks did that whole project take?
I mean, it depends. I've gotten faster. I can make one in maybe a week and a half or so, but I mean, there's a knife. The first knife that I started working on is a folding knife, but that takes a lot more skill to make than I knew
Oh,
at the
sure,
time.
yeah.
So I've been working on that one on and off for like 3 years now.
No kidding.
But yeah, no, it's crazy.
But you can now do something like that in a week and a half.
Do stuff like this. I did forging with this one. So you heat up the metal super hot in like an insulated chamber type thing with propane. And then I take it out, and then I have an anvil that I made too. It's just a piece of railroad track that I put partially in a bucket of concrete. So then I put the metal on there, hit it with a hammer until it starts looking like this.
Okay, where did you get where the place where you put it where it's really hot?
No, I made that. So I took an empty propane tank, right? Then I cut out the like top flat part and the bottom flat part. I cut holes in there. Then I lined the inside with something called KO wool. It's like a ceramic wool material.
And where did you get this KO wool?
I think that was Home Depot or something.
No kidding. Okay.
Yeah, you got stuff everywhere. So
Where did you get the propane tank?
propane tank, that was Home Depot too.
No
Home
kidding.
Depot's got everything. It's the best. There's one like 5 minutes from my house. Love that place.
I'm fascinated right now. You guys ask your questions too. We're getting into hobbies a little bit more too. But okay, keep going with this.
All right, yeah. So after I line the inside with that, I put something called refractory cement on the bottom, but all this is just insulation to keep all that heat in. So like maybe 5 minutes after I turn the thing off, I can touch the outside of it safely, even though the inside was about 1400 degrees.
Okay, here's the other question. How do you get the inside of 1400 degrees?
Yeah, it's I think it's called the Venturi burner or something. It's propane like a tube, just a steel pipe, right? Then at the end there's a T-joint that lets oxygen come in from both sides. The propane comes in from here, so the oxygen and propane mix in that tube. Then
Okay,
it shoots
so
in
did
there.
you build this thing too?
I actually bought the burner online because I was kind of scared that I.
Yeah. No kidding.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm already really impressed. I was about to be even more impressed. So, well, how much does something like that run you?
I think it was maybe 120 or so. Everything
Okay, not
altogether.
bad, not bad.
Yeah, it wasn't horrible. But yeah.
Wow. Okay, so the other burning question inside of me right now, I don't know what questions you guys have with this. What in the world started you on this hobby?
So I started back freshman year. I broke my cross necklace. So like the little loop on the top, I didn't really know how to fix it because it was so small, but I loved the design on it. It was the same design as this one, like 3 nails, one pointing down, one
Yeah,
chain
yeah,
and
yeah.
stuff. So I had that and I just loved it, but I didn't really know where we bought it or anything. And I kind of wanted to have something that was really special. So I was on YouTube, just kind of going down the rabbit hole, and I found a video by, I think, Grant Thompson, the King of Random. It was him melting down brass bullet shells and making a pair of brass knuckles, right? And then I think that I was watching Fast and Furious or something later, and I saw someone working on their necklace, and I was like, oh, that'd be so cool if I made my own necklace. So I wound up making that foundry. Just had like a bucket with cement inside and like charcoal, and then tube in the bottom that shot like air in there, so it'd have a lot of oxygen and get really hot. So then I melted down after a lot of attempts that I just kind of failed with.
And this was your freshman year.
Summer after my freshman year, but yeah.
Okay, wow. Okay, so YouTube, checking out some of this stuff, that's insane. And you just kind of found some of this stuff and just rolled with it.
Yeah, no, man, I found out that I really enjoyed making it whenever I made this, and it is great. Just getting to complete something like with my hands, something that I can be really proud of. I just love that so much. So I just kept on going after that. Next year, I made like some cornhole boards or something out of wood. The next year, I made more and more metal stuff, like gotten up to the knives.
Yeah. That's crazy. That's crazy to think about, but it kind of helps like dive into a little bit more of the question of hobbies too, on like why we do things. So I think about some of my hobbies and stuff like that. And I'm like, you know what? There is that satisfaction piece. There's something about completing things. And I think about like we have a teacher here who loves trains, and like he's especially during this quarantine time has done so many different trains. And like, but it is that satisfaction of building something, creating something too. I don't know, Aiden, what's on your mind with some of this stuff?
So have you ever thought about like making them and selling them? Or is this just
Yeah.
kind of like a keepsake?
So I'm looking to get into selling them and stuff. I don't really know where to start because Etsy is so flooded with like knives and all that kind of thing. I'm looking at Facebook Marketplace, or just if they're like, if I ever meet anyone that's like, hey, it'd be cool to buy a knife, then I could do that.
Right.
But yeah.
So with all that goes into doing something like that, what would you say would be a price that you would put on those?
Yeah, that's the question. So I've heard, I meant to time myself with my last knife, but I'm trying to find out how many hours it takes to see what it seems like an hourly could be with it, keeping it like a reasonable price.
Right.
I've also heard like 3 times the materials cost. So the materials cost for one, that way you can make another and then either set aside the next one, or you can make 2 with the profits and expand from there.
That's
So I'm not sure, though.
crazy. So everybody joining us right now, Travis Audie here. We're talking hobbies. I see Brian Rommel came in, Diane Brown came in, Trinity came in, Renee, Sarah came in. Thank you guys for joining us tonight. We're talking hobbies. Travis has, since his freshman year, apparently been developing this hobby of creating things, especially things out of metal. And it's kind of fascinating to hear just the process of everything that's come through. And I know we did have a question from Austin come through. After you forged the knife, did you heat it to treat it or something like that?
Yeah, so once I have everything shaped out and stuff, but it's still just the metal before there's a handle or anything, you have to heat it up to like, I don't know, it's whatever temperature it is whenever it gets no longer magnetic. So you just take a magnet and you test it. And then you heat it up a little bit past that. Then you take it out and you stick it in oil, and that's called the quench. And that makes the knife super hard. So like the steel that you start with is kind of soft. It's easy to bend and all that.
No kidding.
Yeah, whenever you quench it, it gets super hard, but also really brittle. So it's going to break easily, and sometimes it can just break randomly. Whenever you quench it like that, it'll just snap.
Well, so how does it not break afterward then? Like,
So afterwards, you take it and you put it at, I think, 400 degrees or so for 2 hours. Then you take it out, let it cool. 2 hours again, let it cool. And then after that, it's finally able to flex a little bit while retaining that original hardness.
that's insane. That's just a ton of heat. That's a ton of time. So like how much is just that forging process?
The forging process or the heat treating process?
Yes.
So forging right now, I'm kind of bad at it because I've only done one. So that was like 3 hours, and my wrist, like I couldn't pick up the hammer by the end of it.
No
because
kidding.
It was so tough. But after that, I messed around with it with like the saw and the bench grinder and stuff because it didn't look like the way I wanted it to. Once I got it all where I wanted it to, then heat treating, that doesn't take too long. It's mainly just set up for that and getting it hot enough.
Yeah. But then
uh,
the heat treating process, how long is that?
I mean, tempering, which is the second part of it, that's mostly waiting, but it's about 4 hours, I guess, of waiting. Then the process of heating it up to super hot thing, quenching, hardening, that's maybe 30 minutes to an hour.
No kidding. Okay. So that's a little bit quicker on that part, but still the waiting part and the patience part. So like this is awesome. Bryce, thanks for joining us too. He said, somebody asked, have you tried making a sword?
Nah, that's in the plans for at some point. I want to try that, but that's a lot. Making like something that big, because my forge is at like a certain size. It's only maybe about a foot long or so. So making an entire sword would be kind of tough, but I want to make something like that one of these days.
No kidding.
That'd be awesome.
That's crazy just to think about. So, I mean, I started to think about some of my hobbies, and I'll say like, well, and I want to hear about your hobbies too. Travis definitely has a really awesome one here would you metalsmithing would be that proper word or not?
Sure.
Okay.
Yeah, metalworking, blacksmithing, something like that.
Blacksmithing. Yeah, I like that. So like, I want to hear about your hobbies too. What hobbies would you guys say that you have? And I think why is it good to have hobbies, guys? Like, why is it a thing?
Well, it just keeps your time. So it gives you something to do with your time, with your free time.
Oh, good. And that's what's so fascinating about this is we kind of picked hobbies because of the reality right now. Like we have a lot of time. So I guess that's a question for you too, Travis. How much blacksmithing, forging, metalworking have you done in the last month?
It's been pretty nice. I made one of these knives in the past month, and I have another one that I had to send off to get heat treated because it was stainless steel. But that one I'll be getting back soon, and I'll finish that before long.
Okay, so what's the difference between just steel and stainless steel?
Like
one stains and one doesn't.
So stainless steel, it has stuff like chromium and all that in there, and that's what keeps it from being stained. But the stainless steel, it can be heat treated because not all of it can. But the stuff that can be heat treated, you have to get it a lot hotter. Then you have to quench it in a certain way, and it's just a really exact process that I can't do with a forge. It has to be a special oven. No
kidding. Wow, this is fascinating. Well, okay, so all right, we were talking about hobbies then too, and it gives you something to do in this time. So Travis has spent a little bit of time too. What are some of your hobbies? What are some of you guys' hobbies? Or Travis, what other hobbies do you have? Because that seems like a pretty miracle one too. I mean, like, so I think about my hobbies, and I don't know if it's lame or not, but like, I mean, you guys witnessed it when y'all surprised me this week. But like, I like making things out of flour, like bread. I like making bread and different types of bread and yeast. Yeah, I'm not good at desserts. I'm terrible at desserts, and but bread was something I picked up about 6 years ago. And I know that sounds maybe like a lame hobby. I don't know, but it's one that takes time. Like it takes patience. It takes an art. It takes a skill. There's satisfaction when I'm done with it. And especially the different types. I've really explored that and tried to find out. So like I started with just regular old sandwich bread. And then I moved on to like English muffins, and I've finally done pizza dough. I'm doing cinnamon rolls tomorrow morning. Like that's going to be exciting. I've done corn tortillas. I've done egg noodles, even though that's not technically like bread, but it's flour and egg, pretty
Party
much.
at Lee's house.
I've done communion bread. I've done all sorts of different things like this. Mia, thanks for joining us. That's one hobby I would consider. I mean, reading would be another hobby of mine, but that's just a common one. What do you guys think of when you think of hobbies or things that you got?
Not reading.
Amen.
Well, obviously, I know y'all don't read, but
I don't know. I think I would have to agree with Bryce. Eating is quite a hobby.
okay, no, and I feel like that can be, right? So, I mean, we didn't talk about it, but I talked about how four of my buddies, four of my fraternity brothers in college did a Jan term, which is like a month-long class that was all about barbecue. That was it. They got it approved. Everybody was so annoyed they got it approved, but it worked. They traveled the country studying barbecue, and by the end of it, and they were called the Barbecue Boys. They even got on some talk show like the Today Show or something like that because they were doing this. It was kind of a novelty thing, but they knew about barbecue and all the different styles and all the different types. And of course, now that doesn't surprise us because we have different shows and things like that do that. So food though can be. And so if you know things about food or different types of food, then that's certainly something. And eating, I mean, people make a life out of doing that kind of thing now too. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I can't really think of any hobbies that I have because I don't really do a whole lot. Like, I don't know if like watching TV is a hobby. I don't see that as like a hobby. I see that as like entertainment. Listen
to what Travis said. Like Travis learned this from YouTube, and I know that you watch a lot of YouTube. Mm-hmm. So is there anything that you've kind of picked up there or looked into there?
Not really. I mean, I just kind of watch it for entertainment purposes. I don't really take a whole lot of stuff and go and do it. But there's definitely a lot of stuff that I feel like I would want to do as like a hobby, like you said, like cooking is really fun, and just stuff, other stuff in general. You know, YouTube is a big platform to be able to see a lot of that stuff.
Well, and like, again, I want to hear your hobbies. I've seen eating from Bryce. Thank you for sharing that. Anybody else got one? One of the ones I've looked into, or I would like to do, is actually furniture building. So like I've actually watched a number of YouTube videos about this. And what I've learned is, well, Travis, you figured out how to make a freaking oven that can go 1400 degrees. But like I need certain, a table or a certain setup that would make doing that easier. Like certainly there's easy things I can do to start with. There's plenty of people in the congregation who have this hobby or can do things like that. And so I kind of want to learn that because it's just a cool thing. What I'm learning though is a lot of this stuff has to do with creating. You know what I mean? Or, so what are some of the hobbies you've looked into that might fall into that?
For me,
Yeah.
I don't know about creating, but I definitely like taking apart and putting back together like cars and stuff like that.
Oh,
like that's
totally.
my thing. I really like doing that. Like anytime I've ever done that, it's just a lot of fun, even though it's really frustrating sometimes. And you could spend several hours underneath the car just screwing around doing nothing. It's still fun at the end of the day because like once you're done with it, you feel achieved and you feel like you've done something. I think that would be my hobby.
So that sense of achievement is part of it that brings the hobby to it. All right. So Clayton, how about you? What hobbies kind of come to mind for you?
It's got to be fishing.
Yeah, fishing for sure.
That's not fair.
So talk about your fishing hobby.
It's just like the reason why I like it is because I get to go out in nature and be on the water where there's like nothing else around. It's just like I love growing up on the water. Like some of my first steps were on a boat. So it's just like growing up and like always being around it. It just kind of feels more natural to me, I guess. And I just love to be on the water.
Mm-hmm. I think that's another good piece of it though too. I mean, you talked about how much time Travis's hobby takes, you know. You think about bread making, and that's the thing. Bread making, there's a patience to it. Maybe it doesn't rise when the recipe says, or doesn't have the right amount of this, but there's a patience level to it. Everything else kind of pauses. Fishing is the same thing. I mean, what else kind of comes to mind? I mean, building things certainly takes that kind of time, but there's something to that of kind of allowing us to pause, allowing us to freeze, allowing all the rest of this noise to kind of go away, which is why we have our hobbies too. What up, Mosman? Thanks for joining us. We're talking hobbies, and we want to hear yours. I know there are hobbies out there. I know the things that you guys are creating or doing or spending time with. Again, cars, taking apart a car, putting it back together. That's I mean, that takes time. That takes patience. There's some sort of challenge and achievement kind of feeling to it. So definitely share your hobbies with us as we continue this kind of conversation about this kind of stuff. I mean, Travis, what other hobbies do you have?
I don't know. I mean, does working out count?
I think working out. I mean, I know like my roommate at seminary his hobby was definitely working out. Like we both worked in the field house, but when he worked in the field house, I was cleaning, I was doing the job. He would do that, and he would do it really quick so that he could have time to give people advice. Because, I mean, my roommate, he was really jacked. Like, everybody knew he was very in shape, but he knew different techniques, different things like that, like that he would go and walk people through. He was almost his own personal trainer. And it was a hobby because it wasn't a job. You know what I mean? So, yeah, totally working out could be one of those things.
Ryan Mosman said 2K20 at the moment is his hobby. That's a great one.
I mean, honestly, video games, though. You guys know my little brother, it's his hobby. He's trying to make it a profession, but he learned in this world that actually in the video game world, it's better if it kind of is a hobby, like a side hustle type thing, because he twitches and stuff like that, and he gets paid. I mean, I was on him one night. We were just playing Fortnite, and he got $400 from some guy. I was like, okay, that's how it works. No kidding. But it's kind of his hobby too, though. I mean, he bought a green screen. He brought other things. He's learning how to do it, learning different things. I say, is Bogey still in here? Bogey, we all know your hobby. Like, if you can talk about that, let's talk about it. So Renee Sarah mentioned baking, ice cream making. That's I've
tough.
tried that. I've tried that. I'm not good at it. Have you guys all tried that?
Yeah, every year my family has an ice cream making contest for the 4th of July. So we've started to get kind of good at it, but it's a weird process.
That's awesome. Well, when I was up I love the creating piece of all this. So when I was up in Wisconsin, there is a family it's an extended family, grandma, mom, and kids, like grandkids. They invited me over for jam camp. And what that was you went out, you went strawberry picking, and you came back and you had different stations in different rooms. Like you were the ones who were peeling the strawberry stems out. You were the one mashing the strawberry. You were the one on the stove stirring in the gelatin. We were making jam, and it was awesome. And it felt really good by the end of the night to be able to do something like that. So I can imagine the same kind of process. Like they're experts. They actually, whenever one of the daughters got married, one of the husbands came home and they had bought jam and almost a divorce instantly. It was hilarious. But they had to learn, like, do not buy jam in the store. We make it, that's the kind of thing. And I'm actually that way now with bread. Like, I wonder, are you that way with knives? Are you one that you wouldn't buy a knife anymore or a necklace or something like that? Or would you say, I'm going to do that?
It depends. Like for a fixed blade knife, I mean, I'm going to make that myself. I don't need to buy one. But for a folder, like, I think that I'd probably get one. Like I've bought one before. Until I know how to make those, then I'll be able to make better ones than anyone can make. So
nice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That confidence.
But isn't that the way it goes though with hobbies? I mean, I feel the same way about different things that I make. Like there's times where I'll like look at something in the store and I want to buy it. It could be like something that you create or some sort of food that you create, and I'll be like, can I make that? And I'll like DIY, blah blah blah. Yeah, I can make that. I'm not getting it. I'll do the same thing with furniture. Like if I find something, I'll be like, I could probably make that. Even if like I won't make it for 3 years, I won't buy something in that moment because I think I can make it myself. Because there's some sort of like feeling to it. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. All right, and baking too. Again, I'm terrible at baking. Sophia, welcome. Thanks for joining us.
So what do y'all think the biggest thing behind hobbies is? Like what do you think makes them so special?
For that specific person, it's that like it's their getaway, in a sense. Like
So is it because it's like specific to that person?
Yes, I think because it's different between all of us.
Yeah.
It's going to be different for each and every person. So it's definitely just a individual thing. It's something special to that person, whether it's like something that they grew up doing or their like family, their upper level authorities, parents, or stuff like that brought down to them. It's something that they get to call theirs.
Well, for you, Travis, what is like the biggest thing about blacksmithing or whatever you want to call it? What is the biggest thing for you that you get from it?
I mean, it's the process of making it. Like I see it in different stages of different things that I do. And every time I complete one of those stages, I just feel like proud of what I've made, of what I've just done. Like whenever I finish shaping it, I take a step back and I look at it and I'm like, wow, this is kind of cool.
Yeah.
This is something that I can really be proud of. And I mean, if I make it right, like it's going to outlast me even. So just that feeling of making something that's really good and in quality and finding something that you're passionate about and you just love doing. Mm-hmm. I think that's really cool. And just getting to do that whenever you want to.
Do you think you would say the same for...
I'm going to vary that creative satisfaction, is kind of how it's summarized. I love the getaway piece, the unique piece. I think that's something to it. I love what Travis is saying. I think about like my mom is an artist and I use that term really broadly because she can do pretty much anything art. Like someone from church will ask her like, hey, this is what I'm thinking. Can you do it? And she just says yes. So like I've had a former pastor of mine who published a book and he was like, can you design the cover of the book? And she's like, yeah. They say, hey, we're going to make this thing that mounts on the wall. It's kind of like a statue, but it's for the wall. Can you do it? And she says, yeah, I'll figure it out. And then her most recent one would be, or she's always been a calligrapher, some sort of drawing, painting. Back in the day, right, to do a print, she would get metal and she'd have to etch into the metal and then have different, like, I want to say it was acids or something that like with the different metal plates would go onto the paper at different times. I mean, it's just crazy the way that they did things back then that she learned. And now it's stained glass. And we've said like, Mom, you're so good at this. Why don't you just like make a bunch of stuff, sell a bunch of stuff? And she's certainly done that. But where she's kind of left it as, I want this to still be just a hobby. I don't want to do a professional thing with it. It'll be nice. Yeah. If I make a lot of stuff, but for her, it's certainly the step back and I created something awesome. Yeah. Feel.
Where does it turn from a job to from a hobby to a job?
Great question. What do you think?
I think when your heart's not in it. I think when your heart's not in it, that's when it's no longer a hobby. Because you can have a job and your heart's still in it and you like love it, and so it doesn't even seem like a job. But I feel like once you have a job that you don't have your heart in anymore, then it becomes just a job.
For sure.
I would say, and that's where with my mom, I'm sure she would say, when I feel like it's more of a have to than a want to, you know?
Yeah.
And so she's done some pretty significant commission pieces. Like I want to say, like there were 2 triangle windows. They were like 3 feet by 6 feet. And it was so intense. Like we had to like research stuff about stained glass to figure out how to get it to stabilize, because it was different than normal stuff that you should do, which is just smaller stuff. And it was just kind of fascinating for her, though. That was fun. That was creative. There's a creative piece to it that was so cool. And I think when it becomes more of a someone else is telling you what to do, and you don't get to be creative and you don't get to have your own say and things like that, and then it becomes more of a task, then I think that's when it loses being a hobby.
Ryan Mosman said it helps you to grow. And for example, playing football or basketball with your friends every so often helps you physically and in some cases mentally.
Yeah. I mean, I would put down basketball. I'm not great at it, but I like playing it. And I think it's right along with what Ryan's saying, is that it's allowing me to grow. It's a social outlet. It's the pause. It's the getaway piece. I think that's a part of it for sure. No doubt about it. And one thing Lucy said, photography. And that's a lot of people's hobby at some point in their life is photography. And I completely agree. Like, I mean, at one point I remember I still have a camera that I haven't used really since I came to Texas. I really think the last time it was used was my ordination, which is kind of nuts. But in seminary and college, I would use it everywhere. I would use it for pictures that they would use somewhere else. But it's this creating something, capturing something, being proud of something, piece to it all. Yeah, for sure.
So what do you think the biggest takeaway from having a hobby is?
I think it's a constant takeaway, something that you constantly have, since is that the hobby never really stops until you actually stop caring about that thing or whatever it is that you do.
Well, and kind of let's do this too with that question of what's the biggest important, because I think a lot of stuff we said about them are my big takeaways. Like it's a getaway. There's this unique creative piece that you're proud of, and all these things. So here's my question. I want to throw to us to throw to them out there listening for us. If they don't have a hobby, or they feel like they don't have a hobby, or they can't identify a hobby, what advice do you have for them?
Try and find one.
But like how? Like what's the practical nitty gritty? How do I figure out what my hobby could be? And let us know what you think too. And Mosman, thank you for the compliment. Mosman said, Lee, stop playing. You're insane at basketball. I think I'm insane and I play basketball. I don't know if I'm insane at basketball. But what's the advice? How does someone discover their hobby if they feel like maybe they haven't found it yet? Or how do they identify it if they already have it?
Well, I mean, I feel like a lot of it just has to do with you have to try different things, because you can try a whole lot of stuff and some stuff just doesn't work for you. You know, you just don't enjoy it as much as others or whatever. But just going out and actually like figuring out like what you like to do is the most important part of it, because then you know what you want to do with your free time and what you want to have as that hobby, you know, so that you can be happy and have your heart in what you're doing, kind of thing.
Yeah, like I think just finding like going around trying to find something that you're passionate about, like anything, and not letting stuff get in the way. Like I used to be self-conscious about metalworking, like thinking that it's weird that I'm doing this stuff and like, you know, what would people think and all that. And at first I let that kind of get in my way, but eventually I was just like, you know what, this is something that I'm passionate about and I think that is fun. So it's something that I'm going to do. And like, if you're passionate about something, people aren't really going to judge you for that. They're just going to be like, whoa, that's really cool. Tell me about that.
Yeah.
What do you think, Clayton?
It's definitely just about like making that like that hobby, making that thing, just make it yours. Make it like in your own personal way. Find how it describes you. Find how it makes you feel better and stuff like that.
Yeah. And I think my advice is probably what have you always wanted to do or try or been interested in? And that's really where it starts. So it might piggyback a little bit on what you were saying, Aiden. But like if you're interested in it in the least bit, I mean, YouTube it, figure it out. Say, hey, could I do this? Do I think I'm capable of do this? Will I allow myself to try this? Because I think about where my hobby started. So whether or not it's making something out of wood or making something out of flour and water, you know what I mean? Like it's all like, can I just try this? You know? Awesome. Yeah.
Sweet.
So I hope you guys, this was a unique topic. It was a kind of a newer topic for us. But I think it's a good one for us to talk about because I think, well, it's one of the most common questions you're going to get moving forward, believe it or not. So like jobs will ask you in interviews, it's the strangest thing. You're like, why are you talking about my personal life? But it is interesting. Like they'll ask you, what are your hobbies? Or when you go off and you're in social groups, like they'll say, so what do you like to do for fun? Or what do you do for hobbies? But I think, Travis, you're right too. Like even the stuff that you think is like strange or weird, why do you do that? I find myself doing that with making bread. I have to like well, I know it's like, but it's fun. It's cool. And if you're passionate about it and you love it, I mean, think about how many people you meet that are passionate about something and you just want to listen to them because you're like, wow, they're on fire for something and I want to hear about that. So it's one of the most common questions you're going to get. So you might as well find something to do that with. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Awesome. Any other thoughts for you guys as we kind of wrap up for tonight?
Clayton, where are all your secret fishing spots?
Not telling.
Awesome. Well, guys, thank you so much for joining us tonight. Again, keep joining us for Let's Talk About It. We're here 8:30 on Thursday nights. Next week will be fun. And so see us next week. Here on Instagram, you can find out everything that we're doing. But you can find us posting these on YouTube Live, our YouTube channel too. If you just look up Crew Student Ministry, you can find past episodes. And we'll see you next week.
Yep. See ya.